After years and years and years of boring study lectures, he first found someone he really connected to and that really understood him and that talked in a way that he said he can't even remember what he said. He just remembers how he felt when he talked. And later on in this book, he talks about the teachers who came into his life. So I was on a beach skimming stones. My son was like, "Daddy, show me how to skim a stone in the water." So I was like, "Yeah, sure. Come on down, I'll show you." And he said, "Can you tell me how to skim a stone?" I said, "No, I can't tell you. I have to show you. Watch what I'm doing." So I picked up the stone. We found these great flat stones. This beautiful beach in Wicklow has like a whole row of just flat stones you can just pick up. So I found this great flat stone. Actually, I had my pockets full of them. So you walk down and I threw the stone and I skimmed about 5 or 6 times. And he was like, "Cool." And he tried it and his one fell into the water without skimming. Just plopped into the water. So like, "Come on, try again." So I gave him that up. There you go. And I showed him how to do it again. And I can show the technique and I can show me doing it. But there's a gap between the technique and him actually doing it that I can't bridge. I can't bridge that. And he tried again, it just plopped in the water. And he tried it again, it just plopped in the water. And then he tried it one more time. He picked up the stone and he threw it towards the water. And it skimmed. Boom, boom, boom. 3 little skims. And then went down. And he was so excited. And I was excited. It's an amazing moment, but I couldn't make that happen. I couldn't make him skim the stone. There was a bridge that he had to get over as far as not being able to skim the stone to be able to skim the stone. And I was doing this, I was thinking about Tom Cowan, because the stones skim on top of the water because there is this layer on top of the water of what Tom Cowan calls structured water. And it's the same layer that's in our blood that makes the blood move throughout the body. Tom Cowan says that the heart is not a pump. The blood just moves through the structured water. That is more like a goopy thing than more. That's where he was saying that. I always wondered about the whole we're 70% water thing. So why, if I cut my arm, does water not pour out if I'm mostly water? And when I said it's structured water, which doesn't flow. Well, it does flow, it helps other water flow, but it doesn't leak. Like a jelly-like substance. And I was thinking about this, I was in the house and I was making mayonnaise because I want to make healthy mayonnaise instead of the store-bought stuff that has like really bad oils in it. And I broke 2 eggs into a bowl. And I whisked the eggs up. And then I started putting oil in. And the moment of this egg mixture, which is just egg and salt or whatever, it's liquid. Then you pour more liquid into it and you mix it up. And it slowly becomes this goopy mayonnaise substance. These 2 liquids suddenly turn into what is kind of a solid. It's not really a solid. It's that 4th place that solid liquid gas. So Tom Cowan talks about there's a 4th place that hasn't been measured, which is this goopy mayonnaise-like substance, jelly-like substance. And that brings me to me reading this book, Cosmic Heart, Human Heart by Tom Cowan. And it's really interesting here because he's talking about being in school, doing schooling for so long. Doing schooling for so long. And then suddenly he listens to one lecture. And the lecture was from a guy who was in the Waldorf school. He's a promoter of the Waldorf school. And he gave a lecture about how kids grow up and how they grow into the person they are. And he said that after, 80 and 20 years of schooling, after so many lectures that were about statistics and this this study shows this and this study shows that were just so boring. And suddenly, this man, he was an 80-year-old man, this 80-year-old man speaks from his own experience. And Tom Cowan said he sat there and he listened, mesmerized. He actually said it was the first lecture, after all those lectures about statistics and studies, this is the first lecture that ever spoke to his soul. And I think we all have that at some point when we're growing up. When we're kids or when we're older, like Tom Cowan was, we get all this schooling and all this boring information, and then one day, we see some lecture or something, anything that speaks to our soul. I know for me, I was Catholic, so we went to Mass every single week, and every single week there was an old man at the top of the church on the altar who was so unbelievably boring that we had to listen to. Then every now and again you would get this guy. Every now and again you would hear this guy who was just spoke and would blow your head off. And you'd feel the connection, but you would also sit and listen and just be mesmerized by his words. And I think that's what happened when Tom Cowan went to this. In this Defining the Questions chapter, he talks about going to this lecture that just blew his head off from the man that balled out of school. And for me, everybody has this, and you think back to when you've had this in your life, this person that you just listen to that you feel understands you, even though they're talking to 100 people. But for me, and it might not even be real life, it might be on a tape like it was for me, or it might be on YouTube, or it might be just on the internet, which is where we're going to hear most things these days. But for me, it was Anthony de Mello. Anthony de Mello was a long drive towards the street, and I just listened to Anthony de Mello speak for 2 hours, and he blew my head off. It just completely changed my life after that. Anthony de Mello. But everybody has their person. This for Tom Cowan, it was Francis Edwards, a Russian-born promoter of the Waldorf School. He just said he sat, he listened to Francis Edwards, and after 80 years of listening to lectures, he'd never ever heard anything like this before. And that really, 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 really pricked my ears up. So Tom Cowan says that he listened to Francis Edmonds, and it was after years and years and years of boring study lectures, he first found someone he really connected to and that really understood him, and that talked in a way that he said he can't even remember what he said. He just remembers how he felt when he talked. And later on in this book, he talks about the teachers who came into his life. And he said that one of his statements which blew me away was he finally found someone who was worthy to be a teacher. And isn't that the case? Isn't that the case? We're all looking for people who are worthy to be teachers. And we're given generally people with good hearts, good people, but they're not worthy to be teachers. They're not chosen. Teachers are chosen. They're not given. It's not these will be your teachers. No, teachers are chosen. So it's really interesting to hear how Tom Cowan connected with Francis Edwards. Really interesting to hear how Tom Cowan connected with Francis Edmonds, and how he found teachers in his life that were bringing him towards particular places, but they weren't actually teachers that were given to him, or they weren't people who were trying to be teachers to him. They were people that he found, that he felt were qualified to be his teacher, and he was seeking them out. It's been Alan here from Love for Warriors, talking about Tom Cowan, Cosmic Heart, Human Heart.